Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another FasTrax webinar. This is a weekly event we do every Friday. It's at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. It's free to attend. You just got to sign up on the website. So we try to go over topics of the software, kind of refresh training, see new things, that type of thing. You can sign up for these if you go to the website, go ftx.com/ftx-lifeline, scroll down to the webinar section, choose that, and then there's a list of all the webinars. Now, these are all going to be recorded, so if you miss these events, you can access these at any time. Just simply get on the computer, go to this website, choose view recording, and it'll allow you to review that entire webinar. All the upcoming webinar events, you can scroll down a little farther, and then there's an option to register. So today, we're going to be going over the retail side of the software, point of sale and director. And we're going to be going over what to do at the end of the shift, how to end your shift, and how to reconcile that shift, count your door. That way, everything you'll have data to report on and know if there's a variance or not. So first thing, we're going to go to director, and we're going to look at the permissions that are involved in this. Now, we had a previous webinar that went over FasTrax permissions a couple weeks back. You can review that. We're going to briefly touch on these today. Under the maintenance module and the employees tab, we have your employees. Now, employees have permissions. So, like for example, my cashier, there's a permission called recon admin. What this does is if this is unchecked, whenever you save a reconciliation, you no longer can change that reconciliation. It's final. Whereas a manager may have the privilege to have recon admin. And the recon admin permission allows you to change those values even after you save it. Now, under POS permissions, there's also options to do a shift recon and do a daily recon. Those are two separate types of reconciliations we're going to go over. But just keep in mind that in order to do a reconciliation, to have the ability to do it at all, you need to have those permissions. Shift recon for the individual shift, and then a daily recon, which would be for all the shifts an entire day. All right, so let's go to the POS. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log in using the employee. And before we do any kind of reconciliation, we're going to have to do some sales. So just to show you where the reconciliation is located, we can go to Actions, Reconciliation, and then there's our options here. Shift recon, add a daily reconciliation, edit a daily reconciliation, and then manage safe if you're utilizing lottery reconciliations, which that will be a session for next week. We're going to be doing lottery reconciliation as our topic on webinars. So let's go ahead and get some data in place so we can reconcile that shift. I'm going to open the POS up. I'm going to enter in my starting till. I'm going to quickly just do some sales here. There you see I'm getting an uplift prompt. That is another feature we have in our software that I highly recommend you check out the webinar on. It's a fantastic selling tool to make sure everybody, customers and employees, are aware of promotions and to try to get those add-on sales. It's called uplifts. I'm going to do another sale here. Let's just do one of our item kits. We'll do another cash transaction. We'll do this one as a credit card, American Express. We'll do another credit card transaction. We'll do a cash transaction here with a coupon. And one more transaction. Let's just do another cash transaction. Okay. So let's say that I'm done with my shift. I'm ready to end my shift for the day. To do that, it's going to be different for everybody on the location of the button in case you've changed your button location. but by default, it's going to be under your cashier functions. And there's a button called reconciliation, or not reconciliation, excuse me, that's going to be register Z. That is going to be your end shift button. So whenever you choose the Z, that's going to increment the shift number by 1, and then all data that was on that previous shift is ready to be reconciled. Now there's also register X that you may or may not have. This just gives a running total of what's been done on that shift up to this point, but it doesn't actually end the shift and increment the number. Keep in mind those are two separate things. There are two separate permissions involved as well. So I'm going to go ahead and register Z this. That will end my shift. Now I'm ready to do a reconciliation. So I will choose Actions. I will go to Reconciliation, and this is a shift reconciliation. So I'm going to choose Shift Reconciliation. There's that shift. Now, if it shows up in here by default without you having to choose to show reconciled shifts, that means that this shift has not been reconciled yet. It's waiting to be reconciled. If you choose the checkbox to show reconciled shifts, that will show previously reconciled shifts, which in the case if you are a recon admin, it allows you to edit those. So in this case, it's not been reconciled yet, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. I'm going to choose Select. That will then bring up your shift entry. So we can see the cashier details. That is an editable field. This is where you would enter in your cash till values. There's the register details, which is what the system is expecting you to count. It's what went through the register and it's expecting to be there. And then the difference. What is the variance between these two values? So I'm going to go ahead and enter in my values here. I'm going to make that match. So we can see, after entering in those values, I have no difference, no variance. Now down below, you can see like what your total deposit would be. You can input how the weather was for this day to see how the customer count was during the weather. You can, if you keep track of your safe data, you can see what you put in, what you started with and what you ended with, and then batching information on your credit card. You can put in batch information. Notes, you may want to use that if there's like a variance in place. So whenever I'm done, in order to finalize this and make sure that it gets to corporate, if there's a corporate environment, I want to choose that reconciliation as final and save. It's going to prompt, are you sure? I'm going to choose yes. That's been saved now. So I'm technically finished with my shift reconciliation. If I need to print something out, I simply choose that print button. It'll then print out, have the option to print out that shift and then have a spot for user to sign. So we're done with that shift. So whenever we close out and we go back in there, we'll see that there's no shift there. It's been reconciled. If I choose this checkbox now, I can see that that shift has been reconciled. So let's do that again. Let's do a couple more sales and let's do another reconciliation. I'm going to enter in my starting till value. Let's enter in some sales here. All right, we can see that uplift applied. And we're going to do, let's just do another jewel. We'll do a credit card transaction here. Let's do another jewel, and let's do this time as a check. We'll do another cash transaction. We'll do a coupon here. I gotta enter my tender amount for that coupon, so we'll apply that to that camel. Tender that transaction out. Okay, so let's end our shift now. So to do that, we're going to go back to cashier functions, register Z. That will end our shift. So now that we've ended the shift, we're going to reconcile that. So I'm going to go to my actions, reconciliation, and shift reconciliation. And there's that shift. So we're going to choose that. And we're going to enter in our values here. I'm going to make it have a $1 variance. And we'll do our checks for 15.59. Okay, so we've entered in our tenders here. We can see that in this case, there's a difference. There's a $1 variance. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to finalize this because let's say that I'm actually truly short that $1. And we'll save. So that shift is finalized. So we're going to do one more now. And I'm going to show a couple settings here that change the way the reconciliation works for your shift reconciliation. So to get to these, you first have to have permission. And two, you have to restart the POS after changing these values. So to get to these, I'm going to go to Settings, Settings, and Recon Settings. Now, there's an option here to make shift recons blind. What does blind mean? Well, before, we saw what the system values were. We could see if there was a variance. What if I didn't want the employees to know if there was a variance or not? What if, say, for example, they were $20 over on cash? Theoretically, they could go ahead and put that cash value to equal the system value and not be $20 over and pocket that. You wouldn't want that to happen. So that's where this option exists, the shift recon being blind. If I choose that and I save, I'm going to restart the POS, and we're going to do another couple transactions in that shift, and then reconcile that and see the differences. So I'm going to go ahead and log in and open the POS up. I'm going to enter in my starting till. Let's enter in some transactions. Turkey sandwich sounds pretty good about now. We'll enter in these cigars. And we'll make this a credit card transaction. And we will do the jewel this time. We'll make this a check transaction. We'll do this Marlboro carton. We'll do, let's say, a $5 manufacturer coupon on this. Cash that out. And we'll do our Winston Lighter uplift. We'll let it prompt us. Yes, we would like to win that. So I'm going to manually add that to the transaction. Cash that out. So we're now ready to end the shift. So cashier functions. I want to choose my register Z to end that shift. And now we're ready to reconcile that. So we're going to go back to actions, reconciliation, and shift reconciliation. There's our shift. If I choose that checkbox, I can see my previous shifts from earlier. So we're going to select that. And then notice the difference here. I simply now just count what I have in my drawer, and I don't see what the register details are, and I don't see the difference. So if there's a variance, I'm not going to know what that variance actually is. So we'll see, I'm going to be way off here because I don't know exactly what I took in, but I'm going to say I have $250 in cash. Let's just say 70 in credit cards. And I know I had a $5 coupon in my manufacturer coupons. So we're going to mark that as final and save. So that's the shift reconciliations. They're very simple. There's not much to them. And there's those two options. You can have it where it shows your details and your difference, or blind where it does not. That is totally up to the user and the company. So just know that those two options exist. So The next thing, a daily reconciliation. So the shift reconciliation, once again, is the individual shift. What was done on just that shift, on just that register. And you're counting one singular cash till. Well, a daily reconciliation is going to be grouping that together for the course of a day. You could have 2 shifts in a day, or you could have 15 shifts in a day. It all depends on how many registers you have and how many registers are open. So to do that, we would go to reconciliation and add daily reconciliation. So by default, whenever you go to a daily reconciliation, it's going to assume you're reconciling the previous day. The reason being is it assumes that you have a manager opening the following morning, and that manager is going to recount and reconcile for all shifts for the previous day. If you're doing their daily reconciliation in the evening, just simply change that date down here, and then there's our shifts. Now, this is important. Make sure whenever you're doing your daily reconciliation that you have these checkboxes checked. Because if you don't have one of those checked, that means that daily is not going to include that shift. And that would mean that that entire daily reconciliation is wrong. So you would then have to delete that and then redo the entire reconciliation. So just always make sure before you choose the continue button here that each shift that is on this daily that's supposed to be there is checkboxed. If you click anywhere on those, it's going to uncheck that. So just make sure you don't have to click just on the checkbox. If you click over here in the Y area, it's going to change that checkbox. So I've got all 3 of these selected. Those are the 3 shifts that I want to include on this daily reconciliation. So I'm now going to choose continue. Now, this is going to be our daily entry. It's going to be the combination, the summed value of all 3 of those shifts. On all of these, I will see that due to that very last blind shift that I'd done, I'm going to be pretty far off. The cashier values, there's a variance on several things. The manager will see these values on the daily. This screen right here is not blind. Now, this is the cashier values. To go to the manager values, I just simply choose the show manager values down here. And we can see they're all zeros because I haven't counted anything yet. So to count that, I have to verify the shifts, basically recount what the cashiers have done. So to do that, you simply choose the verify shifts option down here. That brings up a new window, and you have the 3 shifts or however many shifts that are on that daily that are involved in this daily reconciliation. So I'm going to simply just choose that. I choose the verify. It's going to put in the cashier values, and then these are going to be the verified amounts, the manager values. I'm going to input that. Oops. Put that back here there. So this one looks good. I'm going to now save that. So I choose save. And that entry is now saved. I'm going to choose the next shift, verify. I'm going to enter in my values. I'm now going to save this one as well. And I have that final shift, that one that was blind, that was very far off. I'm going to go ahead and just enter in what the cashier counted. And save that. So now everything is finalized. I've verified all 3 of these shifts. So I'm now ready to close this window. And I can now see that the manager values have populated the screen. So I can now jump between cashier values and manager values. In this case, they match. They're identical. So whenever I'm done, whenever I'm ready to finalize this reconciliation, I choose the checkbox here, reconciliation is final, and I save. Now there's other information here. If you want to put in some notes for like If there's a variance, if you keep ATM information or a change bank, there's values there. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and choose save, and it's going to prompt me. Are you sure? Do I want to save this reconciliation using this date? I'm going to choose yes. And I'm going to save that. And that reconciliation is now saved. So I can close out of it. That reconciles that entire day. So let's say I want to receive reporting data on that. That is where I can go to Director, and I will go to my reports and my sales reports, and there's a reconciliation report. I would just simply choose the store. With this selected, I'm going to see the individual shift reconciliations. And I'll choose very first shift now. There's the report for that. If I want to see the daily reconciliation, I simply choose the daily recon details, choose my store, and then run that report. I can see the variances. There's all that reporting data. So there's one more permission I want to talk about, and that's this audit recon button here. This is a director permission. It's not tied to the employee. So to get to that, I would go to maintenance and I go to my logins, and there's an allow recon audit checkbox. If that's checked, that button shows up. In this case, it's checked. I have permission for that. So I go to my reconciliation report, my daily recon. There's that audit recon. And what is this used for? This is used for if the manager, that done the daily reconciliation, has made a mistake and corporate needs to correct that. You can simply choose that audit recon, choose the shift that you would like to audit. That brings up a new window, and you can put in your audit values. So in this case, you would have your audit values, your manager values, your cashier values, and then the difference between all of those if you needed. So there's reporting data available for all of that. Then you can batch your daily reconciliation and do a daily recon summary. And those are both options to do by time frame. Of course, a daily is individual dates. This gives you the option to do for a time frame. So let's say that you're at the store and you need to delete a daily reconciliation. Let's say that you may have forgotten to choose a shift that should have been on there. That is going to be where you have the daily reconciliation permission on the employee and that reconciliation audit. So to do that, I'm going to log into an employee that has that permission. I'm going to go to my actions, my reconciliation, and then let's say I want to edit a reconciliation first. As long as I have that recon audit, I can do that. I can go to add daily reconciliation. I can choose today's date. There's those 3 shifts. Continue, and it's going to say they're already using one that exists. Do you want to edit that one? Why, yes, I do. I can edit that value here. I can go back and re-verify my shifts. Now, let's say if you want to delete it out and start fresh. To do that, you would go to reconciliation, edit daily reconciliation, and then I can delete that. Now I can go back in here and edit that as well. But there's a delete button here. If I choose delete, it's going to prompt, are you sure? I'll choose yes. It's been finalized and I can't because I don't have permission to do that on this one. So to do that, I'd have to have the recon audit permission on the employee. So that covers how to do a reconciliation, both shift and reconciliation, daily reconciliation. I hope everybody's learned something today. And keep in mind that next week we're going to be doing lottery. So it's going to be a bit of review on this as well. We're going to have, in order to do a lottery reconciliation, you have to do your shift reconciliation. We'll go over the settings on that, permissions that are involved. Now, keep in mind, our website is constantly being updated and has, of course, these webinars on there, but it also has training, documentation, and videos. So we have, for example, if I go to my videos here, I'm just going to do a quick search for recon. We can see that there's already videos in here on how to do all this. Just quick, short, and concise. These are added all the time and updated. So just keep in mind, if you want to have a quick, to the point video, check the website out. It's probably there. I thank everybody for attending, and I hope everybody has a great week, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.